I need to turn up the music, Chris.
It needs to be turned up, man. Tear the knobs up.
Yeah, really. All right, it might be time for us to try some different background music, but this is fun.
I agree. I mean, look, you can mix it up. Bring on Alexi.
Yeah, I'll have to mix it up. All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to the MedTech Jam Session with Chris and Mike D. I'm back with my partner, Chris Lyons. Chris, I missed you on the last episode.
Yeah.
Maybe go solo with my friends at Tetris.
But I heard you killed it.
I did kill it. I may say so myself. But today we have a really exciting guest, and we're going to bring her on in just a second. I met Vaida at Academy this year. She and I are working together on another project from another podcast you and I did on comeback mobility. Mm-hmm. Shout out to our friend Ilya Popov. And I was really taken by her tech. And what's interesting is that she's already got more than a fair amount of clinical experience.
Yep.
And I'll let her tell the story. But, you know, in the world of bone biology, there's probably nobody that's more published, nobody who's got a better sense of the problems that need to be solved and understands the science better than our guests. So let's bring on the stage Vaida Glatt, Dr. Vaida Glatt, I might add.
Doctor.
Or we can be even more official, say professor, tenured professor.
Ooh, tenured professor. We've never had a tenured professor on the MedTech Jam Session.
I don't think so.
I would have put on a tie.
This is new.
Well, Vaida, welcome. It's great to have you. As I mentioned in the opening, you and I met it just a month ago and had a ball hanging out with our friend Ilya, and what he's building is super cool. And then you told me all about your technology. Before we get into that, why don't you tell us a little bit, Vaida, about your background as a scientist and your work in orthopedics, and then we'd love to hear you tell your story about your company.
Okay, well, good afternoon, or good, I don't know what the time when it features, but it doesn't matter, I guess. My name is Vaida Glatt. Currently, I'm working at UT Health San Antonio and started a company called Vitabone Medical. I know in the US, we probably would call it Vaida because it sounds like that it's really live in Latin. And I've been in the orthopedic field for about 20 years, trying to develop better technologies, hanging out a lot with orthopedic surgeons and a lot of industry friends. And I think it helps a lot to understand both aspects of what the clinicians need, what the industry has, and what is missing exactly, so we can kind of solve these problems in a way. And so my journey started, so I kind of started in Boston. I met this professor, Chris Evans, who is still my mentor, and he did gene therapy on kind of tissue regeneration. He's a geneticist, so he did gene therapy, or they try to transfect with different viruses and try to regenerate bone. And that was quite successful, pretty successful. But again, he's been doing this for 20, 30 years, and we still don't have good solutions other than a couple of growth factor. And now there's like another one, therapeutics, P15 peptide, but really kind of limiting in the way. And other than that, we have like Me Too technologies, I call it. Everybody has some sort of allograft or hydroxyapatite calcium phosphate-based product. So, and knowing this, it felt like there's need better solutions, and partly because I would be a terrible patient. I don't think I could part with my life. I could deal with it. I mean, as much as I know that it probably would be the best, I don't think I could. And so I did my PhD in Boston, and then I went to do my postdoc at the Regenerative Institute in Berlin, Charité, which is famous. Julius Wolf, I'm sure, famous orthopedic surgeon, all about adaptation, trajectories of bone. And then from there, went to Australia just because I could. I guess it was fun. They also have a great institute. And then I circled back and came back to US. So that's kind of my journey around the globe. But during my PhD, the way I started in the orthopedics field, it was like mechanical environment and fracture healing, which is still interesting topic in my opinion, because I think a lot of companies still have not figured it out how to really approach this problem in terms of devices, because there could be better solutions. But what I came up with, this reverse dynamization, I'm sure you guys know dynamization being in the orthopedic field.
Right.
So when you initially fix it really rigid and then the other way around, and then you kind of make it more flexible, which is If biology, it's so silly, especially if you do it in the early on, it's just like completely detrimental. And I proved it with science from small to large. And now clinically, I don't have a device, and I always wanted to develop one. And that's how I met David Jansen, who's now my board member. And they tried to hire me for the longest time at Globus Medical. And he basically, that's how I got connected with him. When we tried to make it some sort of implant, it just never happened. As you know, in guys industry, I don't have to tell you about it, how slowly they work, even the new ones, right? And so surgeons now use it all the time, like in terms of, because you can do an X fixes, and even if you use like one of those magnetic nails, that we don't have that many anyway. So then I kind of circled back to biology, partly because I felt like there was more problem there. My background is biomedical engineering. And I felt like we have 30, 40 years. We can treat certain cancers, but we cannot heal bone. And there are circumstances when it's problematic and we have to amputate those patients. There are no good solutions. And majority of solutions we have, somehow we decided that we have to resemble bone. So to me, which is to me biologically so silly, we're trying to create hydroxyapatite calcium phosphate-based scaffolds that basically bone material already. But the bone healing doesn't begin this way. So to me, that's how I kind of started all this thought process.
Right. Aren't we biased? And is that bias coming from all the work that has been done over the years, starting with Ilizarov and the mechanical stimulation of bone? And so people then forget about, there's also this biologics piece.
Absolutely.
That is part of the whole entire process of bone healing. Is that true?
It is a little bit, but not really, because if you take it as this big concept, yes, you're right. But if you think what happens, you still, when you create those osteotomies and grow bone in tension, once you create that osteotomy, blood clot forms, and you have that latency period. So you're prepping the biology for success. And we don't think this way. We just think, it's like we just grown bone in tension. It's not true. If you start growing right away without that latency period, it's not going to happen. You're going to have a non-union. So there is biology behind it. I think nobody thought and explained it in such a way that, like, he thought about biology, because you cut it, the hematoma forms right there, that osteotomy. He waits for a little bit to initiate that healing, that body response, and then start growing in tension slowly, not to interfere with biology. So I think, yes, if you look at it from big point of view, but no, if biology.
I think that's my point that you made for me, which is, I don't think we know the biology very well. We understand the mechanical stimulation of bearing weight and growing bone in tension, but don't think about the biology that goes with it. Didn't take that into consideration. And especially industry.
We don't think about it, right? Especially industry, because it was like they're driven by most engineers, right? They don't know biology. And I think that's why biology. It should be multidisciplinary. You always should involve biologists, engineer who can create that implant, and clinician to see the needs, approach all these other aspects. And I think at the moment, and even in the past, still, I think it's more and more coming. But even, in the past, it's all about, like, engineer comes like from off some car line, and now he's in the industry of orthopedics, and he just designs it the way he thinks cars. Think about all these spine implants. It looks like car parts to me. I'm sorry. Doesn't it look like it's to jack up when you change your tire or something? There's no concept of involving biology whatsoever.
It's true. We've got to have a biologic revolution. The one-off things that have come, and DBMs and bone, and whether it's autologous or whether it's whatever, it's just not had enough emphasis. And I think it's folks like you and what you're doing that's not only going to create the fervor of interest, but is going to cause a lot of follow-on technologies to start understanding this better.
Yeah, like Mike was very kind to introduce me as the top, and I'm not really, I would not call myself like top biologist, and there's other people in science, scientific researchers, but the problem they just sitting in the lab. Exactly. I'm almost like this translator, one of the few people that sit in front and translate what do we need in the translation to create products clinically. And very few scientists are like that.
Yep.
And it just and we usually do everything backwards. like in terms of biology, we somehow believe that we have to put a product that looks like bone, put it in, and somehow that body supposed to accept it like it's
it's its own.
the best thing since sliced bread, as they say, right?
Hi, everybody. Mike Donahue here. As a MedTech leader, you know how important it is to hit the ground running when your new product clears FDA. You need to quickly align and equip your field sales team with training, customer targeting, sales assets, and operational resources that will maximize revenue and traction. Well, at Convey Med, we have the app for that. Convey Connect is the mobile-first launch operating system that ensures your field team is clinically confident, culturally aligned, and operationally efficient from day one. With your customized, white-labeled Convey Connect app, your reps can train on the go, access agentic AI to identify ideal customer targets, query AI agents to provide intelligent answers to clinical and technical questions from your customers, communicate and engage with both company leadership as well as your teammates in the field, and then just so much more. So if you are interested in learning more about Convey Connect, go to our website, conveymed.io, where you can book a demo and we'd be happy to take you through the app. And now back to the show.
MedTech Jam Session.
As an expert, the problem was sort of hidden in plain sight to a lot of us, but not to you, right? You sort of honed in on the blood clot biology situation in the early stage. So how did that evolve into a technology that people are using?
So the way it started, I remember I was at one of those biomaterial meetings. There are so many biomaterials now, like 20% hydroxyapatite, 30, like we're trying to, and we're still iterating the same materials in biomaterial sciences to deliver the same 2 molecules, maybe 3, that we have had scientifically, BMP2 and some other peptides now with triangle VEGF or PDGF, without no really good outcome. So I'm sitting there and I'm just like, okay, the scaffold is a honeycomb, triangle, square, circles. And I'm just like, why are we doing this? Like, what is the concept behind it? Like bone healing, and in my head, it was like, I got up and asked a question. It's like bone healing begins with hematoma formation.
Right.
Now you have a material that is hydroxyapatite, calcium phosphate, some gelatin, some synthetic substitutes, whatever you just name it, right? There is a ton of them on the market. And now you think you're going to put some molecule, do some fancy, pretend that it signals and attracts and diverts and whatever does, like some silly stuff, right? And somehow we have to make bone to grow, to regenerate. It doesn't work this way.
Yeah.
Do we even know what the hematoma looks like in terms of architecture? Does it even matter?
No.
Does it have architectural properties? Because
you got to have the catalyst.
Have physical properties. So that's how it all started. So I got sat down after I asked question and I quickly Googled it and looked, there's nothing out there. And that was like 10 years ago now, about 10 years ago. And that's how I started. I was like, you know what? I'm going to design a study in animals because it's easy, in rats because that's how we start. It's cheap. That we're going to do normally healing, delayed healing, and non-healing defects, which is you provide the same fixation, which is very osteotomy, how big the osteotomy is.
Right.
And then we retrieved those blood clots at 3 days. And the processes was scanning electron microscopy and did mRNA to see what type of biology is there after 3 days. And it's remarkably like the normally healing had completely different architecture. And it was more like stranded, like thin fibrin fibers, certain porosity, the same amount of pores, but this was smaller. And for the healing one, and non-healing had much thicker fibrin fibers and bigger pores. So again, I always imagine cells like humans, little humans, because they are. And so imagine if somebody told you to climb a massive oak tree that has a huge trunk, there's no way you can climb it up. You would be more successful at going up the trunk with a small amount. Same as cells. They have only a certain capacity to traverse across when they need to heal. So, and that was associated. So the structure was completely different. And the biology was also very different. Normally, all the osteogenic factors were upregulated. The delayed one had hypoxia-related factors, all the genes. And then non-healing one had all the fibrotic associated factors there. So to me, it was like, well, that's interesting. And what's also the most remarkable thing, at least was for me, by 3 days already was decided whether it would heal, delay, or not heal at all. So to me, that was like this revelation, almost like it's so
No doubt.
quick to determine that pathway that it's just amazing. Then to immediately to me, it's like, what if we create it outside, put it back in? Because there are many reasons blood clots don't form in the too big gap. Implant maybe was too flexible, or there was a problem, some comorbidities, biological issues, diabetes, all just
Yeah.
name it. Many reasons. Some
Right.
of which I still don't understand. Surgeons wash it out as they fix it, right? They blast it out in the debridement. Now they preserve it. Now they collected these pellets, like, which is I always laugh. I'm like, this is not even blood clot. This is just like whatever. This little pellet, and then they just collect it all, put it together, and put it back in, and they still believe that it helps healing. And I think that started seeing my presentations. They called me up. I was like, oh, this is really interesting. I started doing studies, and they seeing success in patients that it's healing much better, even in simple fractures like ankle and stuff.
Right.
So that's how it all began, really, just to trying to understand why are we doing everything backwards.
I think that's the first time I've ever heard anybody articulate that well, because typically what we hear, especially when it comes to trauma or fusion or whatever, is you hear the end result of, well, it's going to take 6 to 8 weeks or whatever. Okay. You don't hear the first 3 days, what's happening. And that's great to hear.
It's the key, because that first week is really key and determines the rest of the healing process. As much as we don't want to admit it, we try to declare non-union at 6 months, 9 months. But really, in reality, if by 3 months you don't see some sort of progress, and surgeons know very well what the progress looks like, I don't have to teach them, it's never going to happen. So forget about it, stop. And that's my another goal, is to kind of change that attitude, even through the FDA, hopefully when my product goes through it, not to wait for that long. It's just bad for patients, bad for surgeons, bad for everybody. For employees who employ these patients, for everyone is bad. Economically, just terrible.
Yeah. And it's bad for the healthcare economy.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you think you can predict non-unions sooner?
So from my experience in the animals, and again, that should be scaled up to in the terms of timing. It's not that much different, I have to say.
Okay.
If you do in the animal, let's say in the rat and the smaller rodents, if you don't see healing by 3 weeks, it's never going to happen. That's personal experience. And I've done hundreds and thousands of animals. I don't want PETA coming after me, but and same in patients. I've seen my orthopedic surgeons work with them, and they now notice it too. I'm just like, keep watching. And they say, yeah, you're right. He goes like, if it didn't happen by 3, 4, 5 months, it's just not going to happen. And there's no point in waiting anymore. Yeah. So yeah, it is dictated by that. And of course, and don't forget, mechanical environment is also important. You can have the best biology. If mechanically bone is not properly fixed, it would never heal no matter what biology you have.
True.
It's also, I mean, it's kind of synergistically they work together they both important in a way. But you can always tweak biology with mechanics, which you can't do the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion.
That's true.
Yeah.
So that's basically the idea.
So tell us a little bit about your clinical experience.
In patients, yeah. Mm-hmm.
We'll just keep telling us about your clinical experience, and then tell us about the stage of your company and kind of where you take it from here. But I think everybody would like to hear a little bit about the clinical results you're seeing.
It's interesting the way it started, and probably you guys, you've been in the space, you probably know Dr. Stephen Kunin. He's very well-known orthopedic surgeon, innovative, works with a lot of companies to try to advance and innovate new technologies and make some of these implants a little bit better and more functional for patients. I mean, they're functional, but you know what I mean, like more functioning and faster healing and faster outcomes. And so I was presenting at the Limb Lengthening Society meeting. It was on my goat study that I did. And I got a best translational basic science prize that year. And then I walked off the stage, and I was sitting next to him, and he goes like, totally makes sense. I have 4 patients. Can we do it now? I'm just like, well, I don't look good in stripes and orange. I said, I'll tell you what you need. Tell me if we can do it. And I told him I need this. We need a couple of coagulants. We need BMP2, especially the cases he was talking about. And I'll get to it in a second about the other product that I'm thinking as well, that at the same time will be coming along. And he goes, oh yeah, totally. We concoct all the time stuff in the OR, whatever we wanted for the patients that we don't know what to do with. And this specific patient was like 90 injury, I think, if I remember correctly. I don't want to overstate it. Maybe 40 surgeries, really bad ankle fracture, was swollen. Patient refused to get amputated. So imagine 9 years, 40, maybe just with Steven around some 40, 20, 30 surgeries. Who knows how many he got before? Because I think he inherited that, if I remember correctly, and nothing worked. And then we treated him with just that non-union. His ankle, actually, when I saw the x-ray, looked like a hardware store. Anything they could put it in to stabilize that ankle so he can kind of somehow function, it was there. And so, yeah, so he removed most of it and he put, I think, a nail, I can't even remember now. And we created this 10 cc scaffold that basically biomimetic hematoma that was delivering BMP2. And really patient, like very fast, within 2-3 months, got significantly better, swelling went down, and he's fine. He's walking around now. So he did not need to get amputated, as far as I know. And he's 74, he was 74. Now, again, think about it. Patients that are older patients, which is, as you guys from industry, it's even more difficult to treat. So and that's how it all started. We done 4 cases and they went well. And then I think so far he's done now, he's at Palis Institute in West Palm Beach, and he done probably 40 cases by now. And then based on that, I expanded at Cedars-Sinai. So we done a bunch of cases there, partly because it was the AO traveling fellows were at that time when I was also doing cases there. And it was very coincidental. There's 2 surgeons, one from Cedars-Sinai and one from Italy. And then they suddenly, Mark Veras, who's the chief of orthopedic surgery, Dr. Mark Veras, he goes, like, a really good friend of mine, because we go back from Boston days. And he goes like, oh, it's essentially that I invite you to give a grand round talk. And I was like, okay. So there's like pretty cool technology you already kind of testing in patients, to which he was so negative when I started to do initially. So it was very funny. And
so you're creating a biomimetic hematoma. That's really, talk a little bit more about that, because that's the sauce, right? You're not disclosing what's in the ingredients, so everybody knows.
It's basically the platform, like I call it platform technology, because now I don't want to take away from bone, but now I already testing in the muscle, volumetric muscle regeneration, which is even a bigger problem in terms, because we don't have anything for that. So it's really base technology. So basically, just imagine it's skin as well. Skin applications could be also applicable as well. And now there are more and more products, blood products related to many technologies, even for skin. And it's basically, you create the scaffold that mimics normally healing fracture hematoma, and you could trap inside any molecule you want, whether it's myogenic or you'd like to, for bone, in terms of bone BMP2. I think as much as we don't like BMP2, partly because bad reputation, the way it's run on the market, but it's really the most potent inducer of bone formation. And it's like, there's nothing better. It's required as soon as we break the fracture. BMP2 gets released into bloodstream from the bone matrix, travels through the stream, and gets sequestered within the blood clot on the fibrin fibers. And it only gets released. And that's exactly how I recreated. So it's trapped on the fibrin fibers. You basically create it outside. It takes about 2 minutes to mix, 15 to congeal. It's kind of like consistency of hydrogel. And put it back in. We can create it any shape or size to match anatomy. It comes as a liquid initially. We take some patient's blood. It's very autologous. We have 0 side effects so far. There's no associated side effects from BMP2, any overgrowth or anything. So it's really this natural way that once you put it in, body knows exactly what to do. It's really, like you said earlier, recognizes biologically, oh, I know who you are. I know exactly what to do. And you do not have to have prolonged signaling of any molecule or anything. It just really, body takes care of it by itself. You don't have to do anything. It's almost like starting a car. I always give this example. Now we have a button, right? You push the button and it goes, really. You release the pedal and it goes. We don't have to keep pushing that button. Same there. You just literally, body knows exactly what to do. It gives the signal once BMP2 is there, because it's the most essential for that initiation of bone healing, activates all the other factors. Actually, interestingly, we tried all the other blood components and it did not work. Platelet-rich plasma, nothing worked except for whole blood. So It's all in the blood. I always say it's all in the blood.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's
And
genius.
it's really very natural.
And I
Yeah.
love your analogies. I think they help people understand better. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And in commercially, you guys been in the industry. Commercially, you don't have to have any, because everybody, I just have a meeting with J&J and they're just like, oh, but you need to spin it. No, you don't need to do anything. You just mix
Whole
it a
blood.
little bit gently and that's it. And you just
Yep.
set it aside to congeal. And then always, another analogy I'll give you. So imagine most of the current products on the market that we have, right? Hydroxyapatite, calcium phosphate, collagen based, which is bone minerals, right? It's
Yep.
body recognizes as such. I always give the silly example about food because I think a lot of people can't understand in terms of. So I always give the silly example. I was like, imagine if you eat beef for protein and I eat broccoli. Body doesn't know anything, just chemicals. All it knows is it's full chain amino acids or not. It doesn't know if it's green, if it's kids don't like it or whatever. It knows nothing. It just knows as a bone material. So
Right.
imagine you put in something like this that resembles bone, has similar surface, but it's kind of on the drier side, right? It doesn't have that elasticity and liveliness that the normal bone would. So it tries to remodel, not heal, remodel. And healing, regeneration, and remodeling are three different processes. And I'm sure you've seen it over and over on the x-rays when you put these materials like allografts, these dry or demineralized bone matrices, bone starts to heal from the proximal and distal ends, but it fails in the middle because there's no nutrients. It's like there's no nutrition. And you need to have oxygen there for cells to survive and do the job that they intended to do. And they can't. And I think
Right.
that's what it fails. And I think, and it's a great example, all these technologies we have on the market, right? It's like they're all the same. I call it Me Too technologies. Everybody has the same, each company
Yeah.
has the same
True.
product pretty much. And they acquire a company that made maybe slightly different and they hope for the best and it doesn't work.
Yeah. So speaking
So
of the
they can't-
company, Vida, where are you looking to take Vitabone? Did I say
So,
that correctly?
so it seems to me, and again, I'm naive in terms of business, like being in that space. I mean, I'm not naive in a way that I see what's going on. And like over the past 3 years, I kind of learned a lot talking
Mhm.
to big orthopedic companies, top orthopedic companies, and they're afraid to bring in technology, pay very little, let's say $5 million to start with, or $2 million, and try to fund on the side and try to
Mhm.
develop that, bring it to the market because it's de-risk, is for sure works in patients. So there's
Mhm.
no that problem that we buy it and it won't work. We invest in technology, it's not going to work. It does work already, and I de-risked it already. But they still somehow afraid and they're waiting until I go through regulatory process. Again, Mike, you mentioned it would be interesting what it would be because it's the FDA doesn't really have much of. There's some products like for hemostats, right, in the similar combination, but not
Yep.
really for tissue regeneration. And I don't know what they would think. I actually found really good regulatory consultant through the circles, and he believes that. So two products, right? One, we tested already normal fractures, a bit more complex in complex patients with comorbidities, does not require BMP2. You can just use it without BMP2, just the scaffold itself, that blood clot Biomimetic Hematoma. So the idea is that initial regulatory go together, but start with that one because we believe that would be 510K
Mhm.
as a medical device. And we would target population of older, most likely, and that was consensus from orthopedic surgeons that I could get the most and quickly, because if it's a breakthrough designation, you don't need more than 50, 40 cases to kind of that efficacy, according to the FDA guidelines that they look for breakthrough devices. Older females who are mortality, if they break their hip 65 and older, they
Yep.
have huge, 20%, they have like really die within a year. This
Yeah.
is the problem because they
True.
become bedridden, right? They can't walk. They're already frail, especially those that have osteoporosis, osteopenia. So it's a huge problem. So my idea is after consultation with the surgeon, that would be a quick, maybe, and good breakthrough pathway through the FDA because it would be considered as a breakthrough device. And once they, along the way, will go with that once they see that it's getting de-risked. My regular consultant believes that without BMP2, we could get it in about 8 months, 510K.
Wow. Wow.
Thereabouts.
So if that's the case, and that all works out, when do you think you guys could really truly be starting a commercial process?
Right away.
Okay.
So we would do everything along the way together, right? Go through the FDA and all package and kit, because it's really just like infused product, right? I mean, Medtronic, quite frankly, did not invent BMP2 and they did not invent collagen. They put it stuff together in a kit.
Yep.
And it's basically became this platform, a kitted product that they license from one people, something from the other people, put it together and make it.
Yep.
My case is very similar based on natural stuff, whatever naturally happens in the body, drugs, biologics, kit it together, put some molding syringes as well as maybe discs for different applications. Like if for ankle, we need a disc, so it would be disc type stuff. So I don't believe it should take that long, especially initially. Plus, we want to target also veterinary market as well, because that's a pretty big market for racing horses and stuff, because at the moment they have to put them down as soon as they break, but because these fractures are so complex, so they can't treat them. So and I believe I could making money right away. And of course I just, if somebody's watching who's investors or in the industry, I do have a exclusive rights. I found a company that makes BMP2 for me. So because Medtronic took it off all exclusive licensing. So I do have a company that makes BMP2 for me. We made it to the certain point. I tested in animals, it works. So, and really just raising now seed money, and I need seed money, and I would take anything because regulatory is so expensive.
Oh yeah.
So even with 510K.
Is the seed money strictly for the regulatory, or is it to do more beyond it?
No, everything. Okay. To bring all products to the market. So if I just started with one, I mean, I could start probably 300, $500,000, like really, like to leanly just to start talking to the FDA. So de-risk it so more investors come along, right? Because once you go through that process, a lot more people they feel safe, or whether it's industry or investors. So it's like, oh, okay, now we know what the pathway is, so we okay. It's not going to take 20 years to go through. And I don't think it will take 20 years. I mean,
Have you done the Q-Sub process? Have you set a pre-submission meeting with FDA and walked them through your proposal?
So I did pre-RFD already. So the BMP2 product, we're still trying to push for device, but they also say combination product as well, which makes sense because kit would contain the syringes, molding syringes, and then has BMP2. So it automatically they want to assign it to at least biologics, right?
Yeah.
Not medical devices.
It would definitely be a benefit to you if you made it clear from the get-go with investors the regulatory pathway, because in their mind, there's already been this trend set that, oh, everything's got to be all these years and 50s of millions of dollars and take that off the table immediately.
Look, I do. I just had a couple of meetings even with industry, and I tell them, like, I have a regulatory consultant that when I met him, we scheduled a meeting for 45 minutes, ended up being like 2 hours. And he goes, I already know, we start with this one. It's going to be like this, 8 months for this one. I'm almost certain he's previous FDA person in the space, that he was in the kind of same department, biologics. He goes, we can clear pretty easy. Within 8 months, I would say we can start selling, have it in the clinics once we have that proof. And look, 30, 40 patients, I can call right now my guys across US, key hospitals, and we can have those patients within like 2 months, the patients that we need for that initial. Then that one would take longer. But then again, once you show that de-risking of that initial without BMP2, I think that would pave the way, right, to kind of de-risk even more, even to the FDA, to show there is no any side effects, nothing happens to the patient. I mean, we know it doesn't because I've done over 120 patients already.
And I do love this approach. There's a science in your approach you're taking. I mean, that's complimentary.
It's like, there's a great quote that Anthony Gaudi, famous architect, said, nothing is invented, for it's written in nature first. The originality consists returning to its origin. And my product fits so well that really just go back to the origin, how bones heal. It's a simple platform. But you know what difficult it is? Because companies are so naive. They feel that, oh, it's so simple, even though I have a couple of patents on it, and European is already granted, and in Australia is granted. In the US is about to be granted, or maybe it is already supposed to be. And it somehow it's too simple. Oh, but it's just blood clot and just mixing some, like, Yeah, but it works. Oh, well, but there's nothing fancy. There's no collagen. You don't add any scaffold. So what's the scaffold? I was like, that is the scaffold. And they just really cannot wrap the brain around it until I show it to them in a video. And they just like, oh, yeah, that does make sense now. So it's just this,
Exactly.
I don't think it would take that long. Like really,
Yeah.
I just don't understand. And I do have an investor that I became so clever that I bring my regulatory consultant who agrees to my meetings to explain it better.
Excellent.
Smart.
To the
Nice
investors and the companies to no, it's not going to take 20 years. And I think everybody thinks you tell BMP2. I mean, imagine, tell all the companies, they know what happened to Medtronic. I mean, it's not a secret. They know what happened to Stryker with OP1.
Right.
OP1.
Everybody's scared.
Not even the right BMP.
It has nothing to do with BMP2. I'm sure that Devon would work within my platform too, really.
Okay. That's
Because
interesting.
yeah, because I
Yeah.
tested with a myogenic molecule in animals for volumetric muscle loss, and it's amazing. Really, it's amazing. We can regenerate 30% of muscle when it was resected in the animal. It's with that platform. And then once we add a molecule to it, myogenic molecule, it's even better. So I think it's really platform technology that I will be able to use it for different tissues, not just the bone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're onto something very large.
Yeah.
I really hope so. I just feel like I keep struggling. I was just in Colombia recently. I found a horseshoe on the road and I picked it up. They say it's good luck. And I'm just like, and I put it there. And I was like, you better bring me luck this year.
That's great. This has been
Well,
excellent.
the luck comes to
I'm
those
raising
who.
whatever, guys. Like I'm raising anything at this moment. And I had initial investments. Orthopedic surgeons invested initially. I got some money from non-diluted money through grants. So that's why I was able. I'm very lean. I grew up in the place I was taught if you don't have cash, you don't buy that.
Yeah.
You don't buy it.
No
So
credit.
If you don't have $30,000 to buy a car,
Don't buy a car.
in
Buy
the
a
bank,
bike.
do not buy $30,000 car. You buy $5,000 car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to pay all $5,000 up front, but you should be able to pay it out if something happens, like to pay
Yes.
it right out. So very lean. I have some great people on my advisory team, like David Jansen. He's been in many companies, has really great experience on my board. I have some business advisors that used to be venture capital and stuff. I have people lined up who want to jump from their companies to mine when I take off. I just can't pay them. I can give equity, but still, once you have families, you got to survive somehow.
Yeah.
If you're the main bread provider, right? So that was kind of difficult in that way that we cannot go fast. And at the same time, also only 2% of female CEO get money. And that's the reality. I'm not complaining. It's just the way it is. It's just a fact. So, and I think I often wonder, it's like, I told David, I said, David, should we pretend that you're my CEO and see if that makes a big difference in terms of when we talk to investors? It would be funny, no?
You're just the brains, right? You're the brains. Dave.
No, you can do it, Vaida. You 100%.
Sorry?
You 100% can do it. You don't need to defer.
There's no doubt.
Yeah.
So
100%.
anyway, so that's my, really just need money to it's like the final 100 meters to sprint. That's all I got to the finish line, really, because it's all tested in animals, published. I already have 3 publications accepted, that the case reports, and 2 other ones on the way. Serious, and I have 25 cases of ankle fractures with segmental defects that the surgeon goes, I don't use anything else.
Right.
Dr. Mihalski, he goes, I don't see. We were sitting at the academy meeting. It was specialty day at the LLRS, and they had foot and ankle combination day. And we sitting there, and he was sitting like in the same row next to me. Every time they had case reports to say, oh, what would you do? This is complex ankle injury. It's not healing, 2 years, 3 years, 20 procedures. And he turns to me, Biomimetic Hematoma. He goes, every time he goes, Biomimetic. I had similar cases. I treated. And you know what's amazing too? It doesn't matter how old, 80, 90, 20, 30, comorbidities. I treated patients with genetic disorders, osteogenesis imperfecta, osteopetrosis, diabetes, smokers. It still heals within 6 months. It doesn't matter. So to me, what I hear, therapeutics cleared the product in the spinal fusions, and it was equivalent to patients' graft autologous celiac crest in 2 years. I'm just like, this is not even a goal for me.
Yeah.
3 to 6 months, that's my goal. And that seems to happen if you do it right. Of course, if the fixation is appropriate, I have to say,
Sure.
I had a couple of cases, the surgeon was blaming me. I'm just like, I'm looking at that callus. I'm just like, dude, you gotta make it more rigid. You gotta add a couple extra struts or something on that X-fix because it's just too flexible. Callus tells you, you look at the X-ray. To me, I'm like, they call it bone. They start to call me bone whisperer, like orthopedic surgeons. I said I can tell from the X-ray, you can tell if it's flexible or rigid fixation immediately.
Yeah.
And if it is, and you see that callus, you want to make it rigid because the consolidation, it is so 50% faster for any of the stuff than it would be. So even with my product that I used, when the fixation was flexible, there was a foreign bone. It was just sitting there. It's not quite consolidating. And at this point, it has nothing to do with biology. It has to do with mechanics.
Yeah.
Right.
So again, you have to take into account both, as I said. So yeah, I need cash. That's the import.
Yeah. Great job.
That was awesome.
Great job.
Well, Vaida, let us know how we can help you. If people are interested in investing or want to find you, where should they go? Should they go to LinkedIn? Do you have a website, an email address?
I do have LinkedIn with my product, and I can forward. And of course, you can share information. I'm very quick to send. You can share my email with anybody. Again, I'm very lean. I'm one of those, I don't know why startup companies start to like get offices and this. I'm just like,
stay lean.
Yeah.
Why? Like,
you're looking at our office
from home, like with the background of my technology on the wall
and a horseshoe.
Hopefully that brings me luck. So it's, just really super lean, just really need, and I've been not even paying myself like that. I should be rewarded. I could go and, like I said, like work for industry and any of these, be a biologics director, make a ton of money. But I gave up almost so many times. It's just been struggle. University giving you grief, this giving you grief. But when I see how well it works in patients, I'm like, I can't do it. I have this obligation for humanity.
Yeah.
I have to do everything I can to try to so patients see it. 30 patients, at least I think about 30 patients were saved from amputations.
That's amazing.
A lot of them
That
older.
is impressive.
So imagine. So when the surgeons like open the box, and they have a lot of tools in their boxes nowadays, there's all kinds of companies with all kinds of biologics, and they throw everything at it and nothing works. And then suddenly they use my product. And I'm not sitting here and bragging that it's going to work in every single case. Of course not. I'm sure there is, but I think my product can be tweaked. In those cases that it does not work, we can tweak it. We can figure out why not and make it work.
Make it patient specific.
Making patient specific. Current products has no potential, and none of them, they have no potential to make it better, really, because they're all the same: hydroxyapatite, calcium phosphate base. That's it.
Yeah.
You can't heal bone like this. You can remodel it, but not heal.
Yeah. Well, this was awesome, Vaida. Thanks so much for hanging out with Chris and I. We are big fans of what you're building, and let us know how we can.
Yeah, definitely. If you can. And Chris, were you was he at the MedTech as one of the judges or something where Ilya presented just recently?
I was at MSK Innovations. I'm one of the
I want to do MSK Innovations. Do you think it would be beneficial for me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
I'll reach out to Drew and TJ and get that set up.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I would love to do it.
And then maybe come to Memphis for the MNVC.
Yes.
Oh, totally. Well, when is that?
October 26th.
Oh, yeah. I'll make sure to come. If you can, Mike, if you can send me like information, if I have to register or do something like that, would be awesome. I would
like to see if Gary will accept you as to pitch. So.
Cool.
We'll take that offline.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Awesome.
Thanks
for joining, Vaida. Great to have you.
No
Congratulations for hanging out at the MedTech Jam Session with Chris and Mike D, and we will see you on the other side.
Bye, guys.